When you hear the term ADD, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's probably stuff like focus, attention, right? But, that's really only half the story. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the unseen side of ADD, its powerful and often really misunderstood impact on our emotional lives.
You ever have one of those days where your emotions just feel cranked up to 11? We all get that sometimes. But what if that wasn't just a moment? What if that was your default setting, where the volume on your emotions is just stuck on loud? For a whole lot of people with ADD, that's pretty much their daily reality.
Yeah, for so long, the whole conversation about ADD, and you'll hear it called ADHD too, they're often used for the same thing, has been all about what we can see on the surface. The focus, the organization, that kind of stuff. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The real story, the one we're diving into, is what's happening in those deep, powerful emotional currents just beneath the surface.
All right, so let's get right into it. The unseen side of ADD. What is this core issue that gets so misunderstood and, honestly, mislabeled all the time? Okay, here's the key term you need to know: emotional dysregulation. Now, what's so important about this is that it's not about being too emotional or having the wrong feelings. It's a real, genuine challenge with managing three specific things: how intense an emotion gets, when it pops up, and maybe most importantly, how long it takes to actually recover from it. And this is probably the most crucial takeaway of all. This is not a character flaw. I'm going to say that again. It is not a lack of willpower or some kind of discipline problem. It is a brain-based issue. It's all rooted in neuroscience and the actual physical wiring of the brain. So, okay, let's talk about that wiring. Let's get a little geeky and look under the hood. What is actually happening inside the brain that makes managing emotions so different for someone with ADD?
Okay, so think of your prefrontal cortex, the PFC, as the brain's CEO. Or even better, think of it as the braking system in your car. It's the part that lets you pause and think before you react. Well, in the ADD brain, that braking system, it's just not as reliable. It's kind of underpowered. It gets tired out way faster, which means it's a lot harder to slow down those incoming emotional signals.
So get this, while the brakes are underpowered, the gas pedal is basically floored. That's the amygdala, the brain's little threat and emotion detector. It's sending out emotional signals that are way stronger and way faster than in a typical brain. So you've got this weaker braking system trying to control a souped-up engine. What happens? Well, the reaction often happens long before your logical brain even has a chance to catch up.
And the fuel for this whole system? A lot of it comes down to a chemical messenger called dopamine. In an ADD brain, the flow of dopamine is, well, it's inconsistent. It creates this constant state while the brain is kind of understimulated, almost bored. So it's always looking for a jolt, right? And big, strong emotions? They deliver a massive, fast spike of dopamine. The brain starts to crave that, and it drives this whole cycle of reactivity and mood swings.
Okay, so that brings us to one of the toughest parts of this whole experience. I'm talking about that lingering feeling. Some people call it an emotional hangover. It's the reason why these big emotions seem to just stick around forever.
And this is such a critical point. It's not just that the emotions spike really fast. That's one piece of the puzzle. It's that they take so much longer to come back down. The science actually shows that stress hormones can stay elevated for way longer in an ADD brain. Those emotional thought loops just keep spinning and spinning, making it incredibly hard to get back to a calm state. It literally feels like you're stuck in that feeling.
And because that recovery takes so long, think about how that looks from the outside. People can easily see it as overreacting, or being too sensitive, or just plain moody. It creates this really painful gap between what's happening on the inside, which is this huge internal storm, and what everyone else is seeing on the outside.
This quote just hits it perfectly. From the inside, it feels like your emotions are literally hijacking your brain. It's not a choice. It feels like a hostile takeover. And what's so frustrating is that often there's a part of you that knows the reaction is way bigger than the situation calls for, but you feel completely powerless to stop it. You're just a passenger on this runaway emotional train.
So when you understand all that, the neuroscience, the brain wiring, it becomes so obvious why some of the most common advice people give is also the most useless. It's a total mismatch for the actual problem.
Let's start with the all-time classic, just calm down. Ugh. Telling someone in that state to just calm down is basically like telling someone with a broken leg to just walk it off. It doesn't work. You're asking the prefrontal cortex, that braking system we talked about, to do a job it is neurologically incapable of doing in that moment. And right behind that one is try harder, or just think before you speak. Again, you're asking for more effort from the exact part of the brain, the PFC, that is already completely strained and exhausted. It's like asking for more power from an engine that's already running on fumes. So here's the core truth, the thing to really let sink in. What we're seeing here isn't a failure of character. It's a neurobiological delay. Think of it like a lag in the Wi-Fi signal between your emotional brain and your thinking brain. And once you really get that, it changes everything about how you see this.
Okay, so if all that old advice is wrong, what does a better, more brain-friendly approach actually look like? What actually helps?
The whole strategy has to shift from trying to suppress emotions to supporting the brain. You stop fighting your own wiring and you start working with it. So what does that look like? Well, it means strengthening that PFC with practice, but when you're calm, not when you're stressed out. It means actively working to lower your body's baseline stress level. It means using dopamine-aware strategies like building in novelty and little rewards, and learning how to directly calm your nervous system when it gets revved up.
And this is so important. The goal here isn't to erase emotion. It's not about becoming some kind of robot who doesn't feel anything. The goal is to build an internal environment where your emotions, even the big, intense ones, don't completely run the whole show. It's about finding balance, not numbness.
And that brings us to this final, really powerful idea, a reframe. The very same wiring that creates these challenges with emotional regulation, it's also connected to some pretty incredible strengths. That emotional intensity often fuels amazing empathy, incredible creativity, and this deep, passionate connection to the world around you.
So, we'll leave you with this question to chew on. Once we understand the neuroscience, we can move past just trying to manage deficit. We can start to see this unique wiring for what it is, a different way of experiencing the world. So, what if the greatest challenge of ADD could also be the source of its greatest strengths?